As always, let's create a new folder and name it as whatever you want. For example, Users Management, Fullstack, and this is it. So inside of this folder, I want to create my new project. So let's do it. First, let's open our Visual Studio 2022. And from here, File, New Project. So here from this part, I choose C#, and from here, I choose Web API. So I will see this ASP.NET Core Web API. Let's choose it and go to the next step. So here we need to go to drive F and choose this folder and select it. And for the project name, I simply use Backend.NET 7. That's it. And let's go to the next step. So for the framework, I use .NET 7. And for the authentication type, I use none. Configure for HTTPS, yes. Enable Docker, no. Yes, yes, and no. This is it. So let's create our project and start using it. Well, this is our new project. First, let's start it to see what we have in the initial stage. So this is it. You can see that we have just a weather forecast controller, and here if I try it, you can see that I'm receiving this list. That's good. Now let's close it and start using this project. So here we have a weather forecast.cs. I delete this. I don't need it. Yeah. And also in the controllers, we have a weather forecast controller. So let's delete this. Okay, that's it. Now our project is fresh. The first thing is we need to have some package for our project. So let's install them. Let me show you that what package do we need. So this is the repository of me, and here I have another repository which belongs to my previous tutorial of ASP.NET JWT Authentication. And here you can see that we need to install these 4 packages: Microsoft.ASP.NET Core.Authentication.jwt and also Microsoft.ASP.NET Core.Identity.Entity Framework Core and Microsoft.Entity Framework Core.SQL Server and also Microsoft.Entity Framework Core.Tools. So let's install them one by one. Let's right click on the dependencies and manage Nuget package. Let's go to the browse section, and here we can search for them. For example, the first one is Microsoft. Let me copy paste it from my GitHub. So Microsoft.ASP.NET Core.Authentication.jwt and be sure that the version matches your .NET. For example, my .NET is 7 and the version of this must be 7. That's good. So let's install it. Okay. I accept. That's good. So it's installed. The next one is Microsoft.ASP.NET Core.Identity.Entity Framework Core. We use this package for the identity. And that's it. Microsoft.ASP.NET Core.Identity.Entity Framework Core version 7. That's good. Let's install it. It's really a useful package. Okay. I accept. Good. So the next one is the Microsoft.Entity Framework Core.SQL Server. Let's use it. So Microsoft.Entity Framework Core.SQL Server version 7. That's it. And okay. I accept. That's good. So the last one is Microsoft.Entity Framework Core.Tools. We need these to have the migrations. Let's search for it. So Microsoft.Entity Framework Core.Tools version 7. Let's install it. And this is the final one. Okay. And I accept. Well done. That's good. So let's close this. Let's check them. So in install, we can see that we have installed Microsoft.ASP.NET Core Authentication JWT BRR and also Identity.NT Framework Core. And this was the Open API. It was installed already. And also we have NT Framework Core.SQL Server and NT Framework Core.Tools. And also this swashbuckle.ASP.NET Core is here and it is installed previously by the ASP.NET itself for using Swagger. So this is all the package we want. And if we go to the Solution Explorer and if we double click on our project, you must see all of them in here. So you can see all of them. That's good. Now let's start and configure our project. So the first thing is we need to go to the Program.cs and we need to have some configurations for our database. But before that, let's create our application DbContext and use them here. So inside of my project, I will create a new folder named Core. And this is it. So let's close these. Inside of this Core, I want to create everything I want. So let's add a new folder for our constants. This is it. And also add a new folder for our DbContext. That's good. Also, let's add another one for our DTOs. We need to have some DTOs in this tutorial. And also, after DTOs, let's have some entities. I assume that you are familiar with the difference of DTOs and entities. And if you are not sure, let me know in the comments. We can talk about them later. So after entities, I want to create an interfaces folder and also a services folder because we are going to use dependency injection in this tutorial and it is really important. So we will see that and use these services in our controllers. That's it. So the first thing is we need to have some entities. So inside these entities, we need to create some new classes for our entities. The first thing is we need to add a new class for our users. So we use the application user class here, and here we can use them. So the first thing is we can inherit from identity user. So if I press Ctrl dot, I can see that we can use Microsoft.ASP.NET Core.Identity. So this is how we can configure the identity user and use some custom fields for it. That's it. So we know that in identity user we have a lot of props like the email and username and password and a lot of them. So I want to add some of them. So let's create a new prop and the type would be a string and it would be first name. That's good. Let's copy paste this and let's use the last name for it. So we have first name and also we have last name. Also, I want to have another one. So let's copy paste it quickly and use address. So we have a field of address. That's good. And also let's have another one with date time type and also the name would be created at. And we use a default value of datetime dot now for it. So it would be initialized automatically using this datetime dot now. That's good. And also let's have another one. So I use a not map. I will show you that later why we are using this not map. And I will create a role. So I want to have a public, or you know what, let's use a prop again. It's better. So I want to have an I list with type of a string and the name would be roles. So we want to keep the roles of this user in these roles. And we are using not mapped because we don't want this to be mapped, and that's it. So I think it's good. So we created our application user. We used first name and last name and address and created at and roles. And for this role, we are using not map. Why? Because we are trying to avoid the circular dependencies, and you will see that later. So I think application user is good for now. Let's create another one. And I want to create a new class here. And I will use the name of base entity. This is a good idea to use some base entity and inherit from that. So what is the plan of this base entity? This base entity needs to be a generic one. First, let me show you that. We want to create, let's say that we have a long of ID, and also let's create a prop of datetime with name of created at, which has the default value of datetime.now. And let's copy paste it, and here I want to have updated at. Again, this is the datetime.now, and after that, let's have a boolean with name of is active, and its default value is true. And also let's have another prop of boolean with name of is deleted with default value of false. So what is this? This is a base entity. You can inherit from this base entity to have your common and shared properties. But this is not a good idea to use a public long of ID, because sometimes you want to have a GUID of ID, sometimes you want to have a long, sometimes you want to have a string or integer. So the better one is to use a generic one. How we can do this? It's too easy. So we can create this public class of base entity to TID. So we will receive this TID from here, and here instead of this we use TID. So now it is a generic base entity, and we can send this the ID of, and here the type of the ID here, and we can use it as our ID. That's good. Let's save everything and create a new entity. So add new class. I want to have a log entity for this project, and this is it. So this log entity needs to inherit from our base entity. That's it, and we can use a type. For example, we can use type of int or long. That's it. Then what do we need to use for this log? For example, we can use a prop of a string of the username, and also we can have a prop of a string of, let's say, description. This is it. But instead of int, we can use a long, because this may have a lot of logs. We may have a lot of logs in our project, and also I want to make this nullable. So I use this question mark here, so the username can be nullable. That's so good. So let's save it. Now we created this log, and also let's create another entity with name of message, because we want to have some message in our project, and this is so message. That's it. And again, this needs to inherit from our base entity, and we can use an integer or long. I can simply use a long for it, and we can have some props for it. For example, a string of, let me copy that. So we can have a public string of sender username. Also, let's copy paste it again, and instead of sender, let's have the receiver username, and also let's have another, oops, what happened? Let's have another prop with type of string and text. That's it. So let's check them one time. So we created the application user, and it inherits from identity user. That's good. And we added first name and last name and address, created at, and not mapped of roles. We will use these roles. That's good. Also, we created a base entity, which is a generic, and we created an ID for it, and the created at and updated at is active and is deleted. That's good. So by using this is active is so good. It helps you to activate and deactivate your entities, and also this is deleted will be used for soft deleting. The next one is this log. So we created this log, and we inherited from base entity of log, and also we have a username and a description. That's good. And also we have a message with inherits from base entity with type of long, and also we have a sender username and a receiver username, and also a text. That's it. So we created all of our entities. After creating our entities, we need to create our DbContext and use it. So what we can do, let's create a new class for it. So I want to create a new class named application DbContext. This is it. So what we need to do in this application DbContext, we need to create our context, and if you saw my previous tutorials, you are familiar with this. So we need to inherit from DbContext. But when we are using identity package, we can simply use identity DbContext. That's it, and we can make it generic and use our application user, and we pass this application user to our identity. That's it. After that, we need to have the constructor. So let's press Ctrl dot and generate a constructor with options. It will create automatically for us. This is it. And just here inside this DbContext options, we make it generic and we pass the application DbContext to it. That's good. And it will call the base of options. And this is all what we want. That's it. After this, let's create some DB set for our logs and our message. So I will create a new prop with type of DB set. This DB set is a generic of our log entity, and we use logs for it. And also let's copy paste it and create another DB set for our message with name of message. This is it. This is all what we want. So we created some entities and we used the entities here inside of our application DbContext. But I want to override the name of my identity table. So let's do this. And the identity DbContext has some default names. I don't want them, so I want to change them here. So let's do this. After this DbContext, we can create the override of onModel creating. Let's press tab. It will create it automatically here. So we have the protected override void of onModel creating, which receives the model builder of builder, and inside of that it first calls the build base.onModel of creating of builder. After that we can configure anything we want. This is it. So let's create them. For example, the first thing is I want to use builder.entity. So for the entity of application user, we want to have some configurations and we want to receive it, and we create it to a table with the name we want. So we use users. That's it. So this will allow us to create the table of our users to this name instead of ASP.NET identity users or any name which is default. So this is it. Let's copy paste it. And after that, let's have enter. So the first one was the users. So after that, I want to change some of them, and let's copy them and paste them here. So after that, I want to change the identity user claims of a string, and I will change them to the table of my user claims. This is it. Let's copy paste it again. If you are not sure what is this, just come with me and then you will see them. So after the identity user claims, which we make them the user claims, we want to change the identity user logins. These are all the default options of our identity package. So we want to change identity user login to user logins. So we change them to the table of user logins. That's good. So let's copy it again and paste that here. So after identity user login, we want to change the identity user token. So let's copy them from its document and paste them here. So after the identity user login, we change identity user tokens to user tokens. That's it. Also, we want to change the roles of the standard. So after that, let's change the identity role. So you know that we have identity user and identity role, which is the default user and role of identity. So we change these two roles. That's it. Let's copy paste it again. So after identity role, we need to change the identity role claims. We will work with these claims later, which is a generic of a string, and we change all of them to role claims. That's good. So let's copy paste it again. And after that, we have the identity user role with the generic of a string, and we change them to user roles. This is it. So let's cut. And let me add some numbers to them. This is it. So what we have done in this application DbContext, we created we created our context. We inherited from identity DbContext with generic type of application user. So if we wanted to use the identity user, we didn't want to pass this application, but we need to use this. So we will use this application user and pass it to identity DbContext. Then we created its constructor. After that, we created two DB sets for our logs and our message. Then we overrided the onModel creating. Here first we called base.onModel creating of builder. Then we config all of the tables we wanted. So we changed the table of application users to users. Then the second one was identity user claims of string to user claims. Then user logins. Then user tokens and roles and role claims and user roles. So this is it. And I think our application DbContext is completed. So let's close it. First, I copy the name of it. So this is the application DbContext. Now we can use it in our program.cs. So let's go to the program.cs. And here we can use it. So let's go here and we delete these comments. We don't need these comments. Let's delete them. That's good. So after builder.services.add controller, we need to add our DB. And in order to use the connection string, you saw on my previous tutorial that it is not a good idea to use the connection string here because it is hard-coded and it is not good. The better way is to use it on appsetting.json. So let's do this. We need to go to the appsetting.json. So let's create a new key here with name of connection string. Connection string. And this connection string would be an object with a key and a value. So for the key, I use local, and then we have a variable. So for the variable, the first thing is we need to have a server. I simply say dot, because I want to use this server, the local server. Then we need to have a database. So for the database, you can use any name you want. For example, user management Fullstack DB, or any name you want. And after that, instead of using username and password, we can simply use trusted connection. So we say trusted connection equals to true. That's it. And also, let's use trust server certificate in order to avoid some warning. So we say trust server certificate equals to true. And also, let's use multiple active result sets. So we say multiple active result sets equals to true. You don't need to write all of them because you can simply copy paste them from my GitHub. And that's it. So this is the connection string you want to use. So let's go back to our program.cs and use it here. So after this DB, we can use builder.services. Builder.services.add a DB context, and we use application DbContext. That's it. So here we need to configure its options. So let's create a connection string. So we say var of connection string equals to builder dot configurations dot get connection string, and here we need to use the name of it. So let's check the name of it. So what was the name? The name of the connection string was local. So let's copy it and use it here. So this is my connection string. Then we can simply use it. So we say options.use SQL server, and the name of our connection string would be this connection string. That's it. So here we configure our DB, and that's it. Now I think we can use our database. So let's go to the view and other windows, and we need to open our package manager console from here, and let's add a new migration and test everything. So you can see that I type, let me show you, add migration, and I press tab. It would be completed automatically because we installed tools. So I say init, let's press enter and see the result. Do we have any error or not? So build was successful, and that's it. So you can see that it created. Let me show you that here it created the migration files we needed. So creating the tables for us, that's good. Now again, let's open it. Package manager console. Now let's use update database. Again, I press tab and it would be completed automatically. So let's use update database and see the result. So yeah, it seems that the connection string property has not been initialized. So let's check it. What is the problem? So builder.configurations.get connection string of local. That's okay. Let's go to the app setting. It is local. So the server is dot. That's okay. And the database is this. Trusted connection is okay. And trust server certificate is true. And multiple active result set is true. Connection string. I think we don't have any error here, but this must be strings. Yes, this is the problem. So let's test it again. So view, other tools, package manager console. Let's use update database again. Yeah, it seems that it is migrating. That's so good. Done. Well, it's done. Now let's open our Microsoft SQL Server Management Studio and check the database on our SQL Server. So connect. In my databases, we created user management, Fullstack DB, tables, and that's it. So you can see that we have logs, message, role claims, roles, user claims, user logins, user roles, users, and user tokens. So they are exactly the names that we use inside of our application DbContext. Let me show you that. So here you can use any name you want for your tables. I simply use these names. That's good. So our database is created and now we can use it. So let's go to the Program.cs and have some configurations here. So because I want to create some enums and use them, I will create some configuration here. So builder.services.add controllers, and let me add, after this add controller, let's press enter to the next line, and after this add controller we will add a JSON options because we want to use it, because we want to work with these options. And here we use options.json serializer options dot converters dot add, and here we need to use a new JSON string enum converter because we want to use enums in this tutorial, and we need to have this configuration. And let's press a semicolon here. and that's it. So after these, we want to have some dependency injection. Let me write the comment for it and we will use it later. And also we need to add identity in this project. So I will add my identities here. And after adding the identities, we need to add configuration of our identity here. And also we need to have some authentication schema and JWT bearers. So let's add a comment for them. We will complete them later. And that's it. So let's start by creating our DTOs and delete this. We don't need this space, and that's good. So let's create our DTOs. Let's go to the DTO and create our DTOs and start. So in DTOs, let's add a new folder with name of auth. And also let's add a new folder with name of general. Also let's add a new folder named log, and also we have message, so let's add a new folder for message, and that's it. So inside of auth, first let's create a new class. We need to have login and register, so it would be login DTO, and that's it. So inside this DTO, we want to have a prop with a string of username and also a passwords, and that's it. So we can have some validation names for them. For example, we can use a required attribute here with some error message of, let me copy them to be more quickly. So the username is required, and also for the password, again, we can use, let me copy from here, it would be faster. So again, we use required with error message of password is required. So this is my login DTO. After that, let's create a new DTO in auth. So we will add a new class with name of login service response DTO. It's a good idea to use some DTOs in our project. So let's create a string with name of new token. So we'll use it. And also, let's have a new prop. So I want to have a new prop for my, let me have some comment here. I want to create a new property to return the data of the user to my frontend. So let's create it first. In auth, let's create a new class with name of user info result. Let's add it. So what we need to have in this user info result, what we need to return to our frontend. So let's create a string with name of ID. So we need to return the ID, then we need to return the first name, and also we need to return the last name, and also let's return the username. After username, we want to return the email. And after email, we want to return a date time of created at. And after that, let's have a new one with type of I enumerable with type of string, and the name would be rows. So we want to return these to our frontend. So let's use this user info result, and inside of our response, here we use this type of user info result and use that name, and that's it. And I think user info result is not a good name, so let's use user info. That's it. So let's create another one, add a new class. I want to have a DTO for one of my roles, which name is me. So I want to send a token to my server, so I simply can create a new prop with type of string and name of token. and that's it. We just need to send a token to our server. After that, let's create a new one, add a new class with name of register DTO and add it. So what do we need in our register DTO? Let's go to the login and copy the first one because we need it. So the first thing is we need to have a first name, and then we have a last name, and then we have a username. So for the username, let's it to be here. Just I copy this, and then the first thing is I use my first name. That's it. Let's copy paste and use last name. So we have first name, then we have last name, then we have a username with a message for the required, and after that let's have public string of email. So we need to receive this email from our user, and then let's copy paste this because for the password we need to have this required message. So let's use password, and we say password is required, and that's it. After that, let's Ctrl+C, Ctrl+V. And also we can receive the address from our user. So this is it. Now we are receiving a lot of things from our user for register. For example, the first name, the last name, and the username, and the email, the password, and the address. So this is our register. Let's close all of them. After that, let's create a new one, add class. So I want to have an update role. So I have update role DTO here. So here, what we need to have, we need to have some username. So for the updating, we receive a string of username, and here we need to have some validation. So let's send the required attribute to it, and we say your error message would be username is required. That's it. And after that, I want to receive a role from my user, but I want this role to be an enum. So let's create it first, and it is the public class of update role DTO. After this closing curly brace of it, let's create a public enum. We create it public so we can use it anywhere we want of role type. And here we can have, for example, admin and manager and user. So we have 4 roles in this project: owner, admin, manager, and user. But in role type, we don't use owner because this owner cannot be changed from the front end or from the API routes. We must change the owner manually on the database. What we can change admin, manager, and user from our API routes. So this is it. So I use this role type. So here I have the username, and after this username, let's create a new prop. For the type we use, oops, what happened? Prop of role type of new role. That's it. So let's check our authentication DTOs. I think it is completed. Let's check them one by one. So for the login DTO, we have username and password. For the login service response DTO, we have a new token and the user info. For the me DTO, we just received the token. For register DTO, we receive first name, last name, username, email, password, address. For the update role, we use, oops, what is this? For the update role, we use the username and an enum of new role, which can be an admin or manager or user. And for the user info result, which is the final type of the user data we send to the front end, it is ID, first name, last name, username, email, created at, and roles. So this is the authentication. After that, we have the general. So let's create a new class. Add new class to it. So I create a general service response DTO. This is just a simple DTO, and it will help us to manage our service responses better. So in my services, generally I want to have a prop with type of Boolean, and the name of is succeed So the first one is public boolean of is succeed. After that, let's create another one with int of the status code. So after that, let's have another string with name of message. So this is it. I want to use a general service response DTO in my services because we are using two layers, services and controllers, and we use this. So we will have a boolean of is succeed, an integer of status code, and a string of message. That's it. So far so good. So let's close all of them. And again, we have auth, we have general, so we have log. For it, let's add a new class. So in log, I just want to create a get log DTO, and that's it. So let's add it. And what do we need here? So for the get log, we can use a prop of datetime with name of created at, and its default value would be datetime.no. That's it. And also, let's create another one with a string of username and use this question mark to show that this can be nullable, and it is not a problem for us because some logs need the username and some logs don't need it. And after that, let's create a new prop with a string of description. So we save the description of what happened. So we create a string of description for each log. That's it. And I think it's okay. So we have created at a username and a description. That's it. So let's close it and go to the next one, which is message. So let's add a new class with name of create message DTO. So we create a DTO for creating our message. So let's have a prop with a string of receiver username, and also let's have another prop with a string of text. That's it. So for creating our message, we will use this DTO. We will receive the receiver username and also the text of our message. And after that, we need to have a get message. So let's create it. So let's add a new class of get message DTO. And here, for the getting the message and use this DTO, so you can have a prop of long of ID. And after that, we need to have two strings, Ctrl+C, Ctrl+V. So we have a sender receiver name and also a receiver user. So in this get message DTO, we have a string for our sender and a string for receiver. So we will know that who is the sender of this message and who is the receiver of this message. That's so good. So after that, let's create a new string for the text of our message, and also let's again have a datetime of created at, and we use a default of datetime.no. It is not required, but we simply use it to be sure that we don't have any error. That's good. So this is it. We use the ID, we use the sender username, we use the receiver username, the text, and the created at. So I think all of our DTOs are created. Let's close this DbContext and these entities. Let's check DTO. So we created a login DTO, a login service response DTO, me DTO, register DTO, update row DTO, user info result. For the generals, we created general service response DTO. For the logs, we created get log DTO. For the message, we created create message DTO and get message DTO. That's it. So let's close all of them. Now we created our DTOs and that's it. After that, we can work on our interfaces and our services. But before that, let's create some constant. So let's add a new class and I will show you that what is this. So I create a new class named StaticUserRoles in my constant. And because I want to avoid typing and some typing errors, let me add some comment here. So inside of this class, this class will be used to avoid typing errors. That's it. So what we will need to use in this class, the first thing is I want to create a public constant of a string of owner, and its value would be owner. This is the first one. After that, I want to create another public const string of admin, which equals to this admin. And after that, I create another public const string of manager with the value of manager string. And after that, I create a public const string of user, which equals to user. This is it. So we can create these classes and we can use them. But in order to using them, we need to change this class to a static. We will make it a static class. And after that, let's add some helpers one. So let's create another public const string of owner admin, which equals to owner and admin. We use these to use the authorization in our controllers. You will see them later. But this will help us a lot to avoid some typing errors. And after this owner admin, I want to have another one of public const string of owner admin manager, which equals to owner and admin and manager. And after that, let's have the public const string of owner admin manager user, which equals to all of them. So you can see that how easy it is. And instead of typing them in some different places, we can simply use this class. The only change we need is we need to change this class to a static. So let's use public static class of StaticUserRoles, and this is it. Now we can use these roles everywhere we want. So we created our constants, and that's good. Now let's go back to our Program.cs, and here now you can see that why we are using this JSON string enum converter, because we are using enums and we want to use that enum. So we will use this add JSON options to our add controllers, and that's it.